Okay, well, welcome, friends, to this episode of Listen Christie. Today we have somebody who's partially responsible for the fact we're even here with us today. David Fishof, if you've been watching or listening to previous episodes, you've heard us sing his praises for everything that he has contributed, not only to comedy world with his new comedy fantasy camp that he's hosting. It sounds like maybe possibly all over the country shortly. But his previous years in the music business and responsible for some from incredible rock and roll fantasy camps that some of you may have attended. And without further ado, I'll let him tell you for himself. David Fishof, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I've been since you guys have been coming to camp and you started the podcast. I've been really enjoying it, and listening to you, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So proud of you guys, and it's my motto: live your dream. And you had this idea. I mean, we spoke about it, and now you're doing it. And now it's getting more and more popular. So I'm here. I'm here for you.
So, David, take us on a little bit of a history tour of your life. Of we have toted your brilliance and expertise in an industry that you couldn't pay for the kind of education you've acquired in the knowledge of what you know and the people you've connected and networked, and just tell us a little bit about that life.
Well, it started in the Catskill Mountains. I was a waiter and started seeing all these great comedians performing every night in the Catskills. The Catskills is a place where people were paying $100 a day, and they would get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So waiters all had big jobs up there, and then in the evening there was a show with a singer and a comic, a singer and a comic. Every hotel, there were about used to have 100 hotels up there, but many of these comedians, when I was there, it was about 40, 50, and these comedians would sign a contract in the summer to work on June, July, and August, and they would guarantee 50 shows, and they would be told by the agency who I worked for eventually, it was called the Charlie Rapp Agency, that okay, tonight you work in the Concord, tomorrow night you're at Grossinger's, Wednesday night you're at Brown's, and then Saturday you're back at the Concord opening for Tom Jones, and after your show with Tom Jones, you're going to work a little bungalow colony, which was a place in the Catskills where, basically you saw Dirty Dancing. It was a place where well, that you saw a hotel there, but where families go in New York, people go up. It's so hot in the city that they go up to they leave their $1 million apartments to go live in these little huts as a group of 100 people. And they have a show every Saturday night. So, once the stars finish working, the comedians finish working for, opening for Tom Jones or Engelbert Humperdinck or Stephen Eady, he would go work at a bungalow colony. And sometimes then he would go to a hotel and do a 1 o'clock show in the morning where you could do all the blue material. So I was around all these comics, used to love it. Sunday night, they all used to get together at 12 o'clock midnight, meet at this hotel called Brickman's, and they would just entertain each other. And so that's where I learned the roasts and all that fun stuff. So I'm a big fan of comedy. And so I started in the Catskills booking, and then I started representing these comics and booking them like Henny Youngman and but Kenny Freddie Roman and Jack Carter and Jan Murray and Maury Amsterdam. And I just started booking them for many organizations and companies. So that's how I started. And then I eventually went over to the sports business because I started representing athletes and I found it more lucrative. And so I was in the sports business, but I never really left that show business part. It was always into me. And and then I was a sports agent, and I was sharing office space with Alice Cooper's manager and Meatloaf's manager and the Talking Heads manager. We all shared the same accountant, and he put us all in one floor in New York at 1775 Broadway. He took a whole floor, and he took half for his accounting business. The other half, he put managers. Madonna's manager was there. Ben Vereen was up there. It was unbelievable the amount of people that were there and that we were all sharing space with. And they all had gold records on the wall, and I said to myself, wow, I wish I could get these gold records. And so I was getting a little bored with sports, but I wanted to add show business to my life. And so I got a phone call one day, 1983, and I was all over the newspapers in Los Angeles because I was representing one of the biggest quarterbacks, and he went to the Super Bowl. And I always said in all my interviews that I'm in the entertainment business, because I was representing an actor called Herschel Bernardi. He was the Charlie the Tuna. I don't know if you remember the voice of Charlie the Tuna. He was a star on Broadway, a Fiddler on the Roof. He had a TV series called Arnie, and he was a client of mine, and I would do his bookings. So I always promoted my entertainment business and got a phone call one day. Someone said, are you interested in representing the association association. And I said, the association of what? I had never heard of the association. And then I said, well, let me hear some of the tunes. And I remember Windy and Cherish and Never My Love, all these great vocal songs that we hear in the dentist's office. So I flew to California to meet them. And they told me that they're getting together. And they said, listen, I'll try my hardest. If you want, I'll be glad to manage you. And took them on as a client. I show up to the William Morris agency the next day and say, hey, guys, I'm representing the association. They looked at me like, what are you, nuts? He says, you're the biggest sports agent in New York. What would you want to have this band for? I said, I love show business. I love talented people. Can you help me get some bookings for them? They're your clients. So I really stayed on top of these guys, and they booked some shows. And all of a sudden, they had so many shows that all these other bands like the Turtles and the Grassroots and the Mamas and Papas and all those great 60s favorites started seeing Gary Puck and the Union Gap. Wow, the association's working, and they have all these shows. Who is this guy? And they all called me and asked me if I wanted to represent them. And I said, yeah, why not? I'll take you all on. And I took them on and started booking them, and had a guy working with me. And then all of a sudden, one day I get an idea. How about I package them all together? Put 4 of these bands together, call them the Happy Together Tour. I have the Turtles, the Association, Gary Puck and Union Gap, and Spanky and our gang. And we'll go on tour, and we'll give people only the hit songs. And the movie The Big Chill came out that summer, and I went to William Morris, and they booked the tour. Some of these promoters liked it, and it was great price, and you could see all those hits one night, and no new songs, only hits. And the movie The Big Chill comes out, and when the Big Chill came out, it brought a lot of people back to nostalgia music, and all those nostalgia bands started getting popular again. So I went to 15 shows that William Morris Agency booked to 115 shows. All the promoters were buying the show. Our business was really doing great. And then I decided, you know what? That was in 84. Let me do it again, 85. I did 85. I kept the Turtles because they were really talented. Every night they did a crazy show. And besides those songs, Happy Together, and they had such great hits. I said, let me make it a different package. So I came up with the idea to bring the Byrds in. And then I brought the Grassroots in, and Tommy James and the Shondells, and other bands like that, and put another version of Happy Together Volume 2, 1985. And again, we toured 125 locations, and people loved the show, hits. And in between the bands, while they were going on and off, I had a voice telling people, what was happening that year in the news, John F. Kennedy or all the Vietnam War, and so you really got a great night of entertainment. And 1985, I'm on tour, and I would never go on the road, but I'd come out to the big cities and see the bands. And I'm staying in a hotel room at 2:00 in the morning in St. Louis. I think the hotel thought they were doing me a favor by giving me the whole top floor suite. I couldn't sleep the whole night, and at the Holiday Inn, and I was watching television, and I saw the Monkees, and I said, wow. I love the Monkees. I would do anything to get the Monkees to come back together, because that was the only show my parents let me watch. My parents were very strict on me and watching television. So I said the Monkees. So I looked into the research, and I found out that that Peter Tork was teaching guitar lessons and piano lessons in New York City. He had, if you go in New York City, you can go, there's signs on the lampposts, and take a guitar lesson with Peter Tork, and then you could have like 25 different, his telephone number, 20, just rip it off. And I got his telephone number. I called him up, and I said, Peter, hi, I'm David Fishof. I'm producing the Happy Together tour. It's coming to New York in 2 weeks. Would you, I'd love to put the Monkees together. How about you be my guest? Come see the show. So he comes to see my show, and I put him on the side of the stage. I see he's tapping, having a great time. And he said, boy, we'd be great. We could do this. So I turn around and find out that he doesn't own the name. The band doesn't own the name. That Columbia Pictures owns the name, the Monkees. It was a TV show. It was 4 guys who were
Right.
answered a casting call. So I call up Columbia Pictures in New York, and the head of licensing, and I said to him, hi, my name is David Fishof, and I would like to license the name the Monkees. And he turned to me and said, I know who you are. I'm a big sports fan. He says, take me to a Yankee game. So I took him to a Yankee game, and we talked it. And I remember telling my players that he was coming, and and give him a bat and a ball, and we sat down together. And next thing he says to me, why do you want to rent the name the Monkees? Why do you want to license it? No one has used it in 20 years. It's a dead name. I mean, he does. I remember he does Batman, he does Ghostbusters, but the monkey logo he manages, no one's using it. I said, I want to use it, and I'm going to do a tour with 4 bands. I got the Hermits, I got the
What
Grassroots,
year is all
and
this happening?
1986.
Okay.
1986. So I was going to do my third version of Happy Together. So as I told you, I was in 1775 Broadway. And on top of me, I'm on the 7th floor. On the 8th and 9th floor is a network called MTV. And I'm going up and down the elevators with Bob Pittman, who's the president of MTV, and Tom Freston. They run the network. And I'm representing a lot of the New York Giants. And, people just look at me on the street. If the Giants lost, people look at me, oh, I lost money on the bet. They didn't like my clients. Or if I won, people liked me. And so going up and down the elevator, and I licensed the name The Monkees. And I get a phone call from a reporter, Billboard magazine. He said, David, he said, did you hear that MTV is airing 24 hours of Monkees this week? I said, what? Yeah, they're putting the TV show on the air. And so I ran upstairs to Bob Pittman. I walk into MTV's offices, and I just walked right in. There wasn't even a receptionist there. And I said, Mr. Pittman, you remember me? I'm from the elevator. Yeah, you're the sports agent guy. Sit down. What's your issue? I said, I'm doing the Monkees on tour, and I heard you're doing 24 hours. He says, that's right. He says, sit down here. Let's make a deal. I'll promote your tour on my new fledgling network, and you promote MTV and all your ads. I said, great. So I said, I'll put MTV in all my ads, and as seen on MTV. I go on sale, and normally I would sell 2,000-3,000 seats as part of the package Happy Together. We go on sale in Chicago, Detroit, Texas, and we sell 30,000 tickets in Chicago at a theater. It was one of those amphitheaters, it's 6,000 seats, under
That's
the
a
roof.
sellout.
It's a sellout. And Detroit calls me up. We sold 15,000 tickets, and we had another day. I said, sure, you can have 20 other days. Who cares? And what happened was every little girl was waiting online, and they'd come home. They bought monkey tickets because they saw it on MTV. And they'd come home, and they'd say to their mothers, say, where were you all night? Mommy, I was buying monkey tickets. And the mother would say, I want to go. So the first 20 rows were all these little girls, and then screaming, and then their mothers. And it was such a phenomenon, 1986. The MTV brought back the Monkees into such a way that the band was bigger in 86 than they were in 66. They were just so big. And now we had MTV. They went and recorded a record. It went to #1. It got so hot. And I'm there owning the tour. I owned it. And I was paying these people. You can imagine, I had them down at a salary pre-MTV. So we worked it out, and they toured, and it became huge. And where I really made the most money was the merchandise, the T-shirts, and because I didn't have to pay a royalty, and I owned that guitar logo, so that was really good for me. And I did.
Who is your next famous client?
So then I did the Monkees again, and then a year later, I went to see the movie Dirty Dancing, and I loved Dirty Dancing because I was in the Catskills. I was a waiter there, so how could you not love that film? So I go and I call the people who do the film. I think I'll do the same thing. I call the people who own the film, and I said, hey, I want to do a tour called Dirty Dancing, the live tour. I want to take all the dancers. I want to take the stars of the music, Bill Wyman, who did the song I Had Time of Your Life, and Eric Carmen, who just passed away, did Hungry Eyes. The Contours, they did a song, Do You Love Me? And I said, I'll get the dancers, and I'll get the stars, and the vocal stars, and I'll put a show together. So they licensed me the name. Again, no one in our industry had ever done a television show as a tour. No one ever did a movie as a tour. No one was even doing packages, the 4 bands. So, this was all before Live Nation. So I put an ad, and my agent calls me up and says, Radio City Music Hall will offer you 1 show for Dirty Dancing. I said, let them give me 3 shows. And 1 show, they'll pay me for 2. But 1 show, I want a full-page ad in the New York Times, Sunday entertainment section. I figured everybody goes there. And again, I had no show. And I go see a press agent and I said, how do I promote this idea of Dirty Dancing Live Tour? They gave me ideas. I contacted I hired the choreographer to help put the show together for me. But I put together artwork, Dirty Dancing, the live tour, got a full page ad in the New York Times. And the press agent recommended you should do a press conference at Radio City Music Hall, and then put tickets on sale right after that. Put the ad in on the Sunday beforehand. So I staged a fake rehearsal. I wanted me a fake rehearsal. I hired the choreographer. We hired 20 local dancers. I got Bill Medley to fly in and sit by a piano with Eric Carmen and practice. And we'll figure it all out. So the full page ad appears on Sunday. Tickets on sale Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock at the Radio City Music Hall box office, at 12 o'clock on Ticketron or Ticketmaster. And I came there, and then press conference at 10 o'clock. By the time I got to Radio City at 9 o'clock in the morning, the lines were all the way 20 blocks long, everybody waiting online to buy tickets for this show. And I walked into Radio City, and by 10:01, the president of Radio City says, David, we sold out 3 shows. Can you add more? I said, you can add keep going. He said, I can only add 5 more because I got Barbara Streisand a week later. I got another show the week before. So we added them in. 24 hours later, we sold out 8 shows at Radio City Music Hall, and I didn't have a show. So now I know I'll create a show. My agent was able to go around and tell everybody, buy this show. It sold out 8 nights at Radio City Music Hall. So we booked the whole tour. And that was my Dirty Dancing experience. And I did all around the world. Dirty Dancing was so big all around the world. In Germany, they called it Schmutzig Tanzen for people who speak German. Italy, England, Dirty Dancing. And it's still amazing. And then from that, after I did it, the woman who originally wrote the script got the rights back from the film company because she got ripped off. And so she's done it at the Broadway show. And then from there, I went and came up with the idea to put Ringo Starr on the road. My business model was I would go find corporate sponsors and get a corporate sponsor. And so I decided Pepsi came to me and said, David, we love what you do with Dirty Dancing. We were able to give tickets to our people, meet the dancers, give people a great experience. What can you do next? And I said, I have another idea. I want to put Ringo on the road. So they said, we'll help you, we'll back you, and wrote a letter to Ringo Starr. And next thing you know, 6 months later, I got a meeting with him and went to pitch him the idea in England. And he said to me, I was looking at the same idea. And next thing, we did that tour, and he's still touring 33 years later. I did the first 15 and then decided no more road for me. And I got married again and just didn't want to live the life on the road.
But David, tell the story that you told Ringo if he'd go on tour, you'd go with him. And of course, you didn't think he meant it. And now it's weeks later. Tell him what happened.
Yeah, no, I'm on tour with Ringo, and then after this 3rd show, I'm in Buffalo, and I said, Ringo, I'm going to go home, and I'll be back next week. And he turned to me and said, you remember you promised you're going to be with me the whole time? I said, well, that's agent talk. I don't really go on the road. I never wanted to go on the road. I couldn't live on these buses. I never wanted to be away from home. I go out for 1 or 2 days. I found myself on the road for 7 weeks, and then I went to Japan, and it was interesting. It was really life-changing for me because I never lived on the road or went on a tour before. But so, yeah, it was cool. I had to grow up because I was with all these guys that were older. But and then from there, I created a rock and roll fantasy camp, and that's been my history basically.
Yes, but get to that. You've been doing that, 27 years?
Yeah, 27, now 28, going into my 28th year, and I really
And
enjoy it.
explain what rock and roll.
Well, actually, sorry, am I too loud in your ear? Tell us how.
Yeah, I know I did a lot of talking,
but how the idea to do that, because whenever we come back and tell people about comedy fantasy camp or rock and roll camp, it's like this light bulb kind of launches in everybody's head where they're like, that's a great idea. How come I never thought of it?
I know why they never thought of it, because like my accountant said, why are you doing this rock and roll fantasy camp? Why are you spending your kids' money? It's not a financially, it's very hard, because first of all, it's not a concert. where people can buy a ticket and then go. You're actually asking people to go play music with celebrities and do comedy, and people are scared. It's not an easy thing to, it sounds cool, but I guess the best way to explain it is I got invited to go to Michael Jordan fantasy camp. And I told my friend, I'm not going to Michael Jordan. I'm not going to play one-on-one basketball with Michael Jordan, look like an idiot. So, that's what happens with the music camps. I think that people get scared. The wife buys it for the husband, and the husband says, oh, I can't jam with Roger Daltrey or Chad Smith, the Chili Peppers. I'm going to look stupid, and they get scared. And they shouldn't, because it's I regret not going to Michael Jordan fantasy camp. And with rock camp, once they come back every year, and they keep coming back and back and back, because you take them such a high, such an experience, and they learn so much. So I think that, and for me, it's fun to do. It keeps me so excited to create a new camp, find new talent. I'm 68. I love it. I'm going to be in June, and I feel younger than ever. I love changing people's lives. That's really what camp is for me. I love to give people a life-changing experience, and I don't want to go on the road anymore. So come to me, and I'll give you what experience I went through.
And I have to brag on you. You do so much. You travel back to Israel quite a bit, and the
Yeah.
support that you have is, it makes my heart full. It makes me so proud to be your friend.
Thank you. Yeah, 5 kids, 8 grandkids, and great friends. And, and at the same time, you're doing all this good stuff. I'm really proud that I brought, 10. I was in Israel, and as I told the story, and I hope we're going to get a documentary out of it. I was in Israel, and I went to a funeral of one of the 3 hostages. And there were 3 hostages that were shot by mistake. They were running, and the army shot them, friendly fire. And one of them was a drummer, and I went to his funeral. And when I saw, his brother got up there and did a drum solo for 20 minutes, and the father took the drumsticks, threw it in the grave. And I said to my best friend Sam at the time, who arranged for me the trip, and he was the ambassador here in Los Angeles, and now he runs a huge organization in Israel. I said, I want to bring 10 musicians and change their lives and bring them to Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. And it was incredible, and it was so amazing. The rockers, the campers, they just made them feel so good. And now they've stayed together, and they performed together a week ago. We get on Zoom, we talk to them on Zoom. What can we do? How can we help you? And and every day the news comes out of there. It's so sad. It's so sad what's going on, what's happened. And but these 10 people I'm focusing on and really trying to help them.
Well, and I think that was one of the biggest takeaways that we had when we came back from comedy camp was just like you said, the fear of, but I don't have the talent or the skill to measure up to the people who are teaching the class. Is once you're in it and kind of have that submersion experience, you realize how many people in the industry only want the next generation of creators or talent to come in and succeed, because they've paved this path for great musicians or great comedians, and they want talent to come in and appreciate the art of making it happen. So everybody's willing to, like Caroline Ray, we can't say enough wonderful things just
She's
about how
amazing.
and Jay Leno, they both just really embraced everybody that we saw them engage with and interact. And how can I help you be the best of what you want to get out of this?
So in Rock Camp, the movie, which is on Amazon Prime, you see that it's the rock stars who, at the end of the movie, I'm going to give it away. The surprise is that it is how moving, not only changing people's lives, but they get changed. So why did Jay Leno come back? Why did Carolyn Ray come back? Why did
Right.
Adam Carolla want to do it again? Because these people they've reached the height of the mountains. They've reached their career. What is there left to do but help other people? And it reminds them what it was like when they first started. So Gene Simmons said a line. He said, I wish 50 years ago there was a rock and roll fantasy camp, so I want to learn not to make mistakes. Jay Leno, the same thing. He's done everything. What's left for these people to do? They do charity. So the only thing left is to be able to mentor and help the next generation. So I love it. I really love that part of it. And it's exciting now in rock and roll that I just got a member of Green Day coming to a camp. I had Chili Peppers. I'm getting the younger generation to realize that this is a great opportunity in a closed environment. John Lovett was amazing at the last camp.
Right. Yeah.
Carolyn stayed for 3 days, and it was just great how she couldn't give enough back.
Okay, so tell us about, at least on the calendar for this year, what are some of the rock and roll camps that you have coming up? What are the comedy camps you have coming up? Where can people find
Well,
you?
okay, so on October, we're going to announce, you're hearing it first, but we have Green Day. We have a member of the Killers. We have a member, I'm just looking at my board now. We have from Jane's Addiction, Steve Perkins. We're going to do a women's only camp. I have to talk about Britt. You guys didn't really get to spend much time with Britt, but she's our musical director of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. And she and I produced 2 women's only rock camps. One with Nancy Wilson and Melissa Etheridge. Amazing. Amazing. And then another one with Lizzie Hale and Winona. And now we're going to do a third, Sheila E. and Lita Ford and more.
Wow.
Women rockers need this because people have to feel safe in a band. Not that they don't, but you don't need some guy, jamming up a solo. They want to just feel free. And to me, it was my favorite camp because the bond between the ladies was something bigger and better than I ever saw with regular camps. So at a regular camp, everybody does their performance the final night, and they have such a great time. Then they leave and they go celebrate with their band, and it's a boys and a women's club. They're together. The women's camp, no one moved. They just supported each other, and the support. And then I walked out of the room. I wasn't even there most of the time, but just to hear these women asking Lizzie Hale, and the Hale started asking Winona, questions about what they had to overcome to be a woman in rock and roll. And more and more people now are successful. You see Beyonce, you see Katy Perry, and you see Taylor Swift, and you didn't have that 10 years ago.
It's funny you bring that up, David. This is a little bit of a segue, but I just saw this post the other day about how Gillian Anderson's character of Scully on The X-Files created such this phenomenon in the workforce of that generation that grew up watching the show of what they wanted to experience or what they felt like they were allowed to do. And I think, you having this conversation, it does. I think there would be a huge camaraderie again, amongst women, because for so many years you didn't see those big female rock stars.
Right. And they're so talented. They're so talented. Some of these guitar players are amazing, and drummers, and for them to go to a safe place for 4 days and learn. And I got to tell you, one of the young ladies, she was suicidal, and her mother, she told Britt and I, she said, you saved my daughter's life, and so many issues that bullying issues, so many things that they could talk about and have that forum. We love it. We've had so we're trying to put that together. But that's going to happen in December. And then we have, I'm getting Tommy Lee is coming back. I'm excited about that because he'll bring women. He brought 40 women last time. It was really funny. I had a group Tommy Lee came to a camp in the Bahamas. And it was so funny. These 5-6 women signed up. Really, one woman, her husband was very wealthy, and these 5 women were getting together every once a week because they were dropping their kids off to a music school. And they were waiting in the lobby, and one of them said, why don't we just be a band? Let's hire a guitar teacher, we'll be a band. So they became a band, and they had their own band, and they were, while they would drop the kids off, they went to another studio. They saw Tommy Lee. They get a phone call from one lady. She says, we want to come to camp. I said, great. So they came to camp. They said, we want to have Kip Winger. Can we get a private lesson with Tommy Lee? And we'll pay extra. They came to the Bahamas, and they were partying. They were having such a great time. So I turned to Tommy Lee. I turned to Kip Winger the last day because he was their mentor for 4 days. I said, ladies, I need to talk to you. Kip, can you leave the room? I said, this is a fantasy camp. And you need to go back home to your families and you have kids and everything like that. And I know you've been partying every night and enjoying yourselves, but this is a fantasy, and I need you to go back home to your husband so they'll be able to buy this again for you. Selfishly. One woman raised her hand. She said, I'm going to ask my husband for 1 day pass. The lines were so funny. Well, in the end, I have to say that these 5 women, 6 women, the one who was married to the wealthy husband, she's still together. The other 5 got divorced, and it was so interesting to see what happened. Basically, was they found themselves, and they found that they, I guess they wanted to go into music and just do something different with their lives, and I don't know, it was quite therapeutic for them. But and they were a band. They opened for a couple shows, and I don't think together now. But you know, I'm on it. Okay, so how did I create rock? Or where did I really get the big idea from? Yes, I got it from being on the road and being with Ringo's band. But the life changing experience was when I did a program called the Hoffman Institute. I don't know if I spoke enough about this, but I did a program 23 years ago. I went away to a place up north called the Hoffman Institute.org. And you guys should look into it and just talk about it because it's great. And now Katy Perry's made it very popular because she went and she met Orlando Bloom there. And so many rock stars have gone there. And it's basically a place where our parents gave us positive traits and they gave us negative traits. And we love them for the positive traits, right? Love them. But they gave us a lot of negative stuff. And this is a program that helps you identify the negative traits that you got from your parents and either from your mother or your father or from both, and get them out of your system so that you don't give them to your kids. And you learn to love your parents because you understand that they got their crap from their parents, who got it from their parents, who got it from their parents. And I think we as parents have to, not give our kids the same, the same kind of, stuff that we learned from we all carry our mother and our father on our shoulder. And everybody wants, as you know, our kids want approval, whether it's my kids, daddy, watch me hit, the daddy, look what I'm doing. Or to make it even on a bigger note, I always like to tell the story when Tom Cruise's ex-wife, who is she? The one married to Keith Urban. What's her name?
Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman gets the Oscar. And she gets up there and says, Mommy, are you proud of me now? And if you go on, watch the Oscars, just watch them. Watch the Grammys. Mommy, are you proud of me now? Daddy, I did this for you. Everybody does parental approval. Forget your parents. Do it for you. And I learned so much at Hoffman. It really changed my life. I've been back there many times and this weekend. So when I took the material that I learned from Hoffman and really try to give it to my campers, to give them an experience where they can find themselves, what they really want, what their happiness is. So what I love about comedy camp, so many of the comics went out and started doing routines and got rid of their fears and started playing, performing. People started podcasts. People in a rock camp, it's amazing. People, I love the guy who writes to me from rock camp. He says he was a Wall Street guy. He says, David, I got good news, bad news. The good news is I'm going to quit my job on Wall Street, which is bad for you because I can't come to your camps anymore. I won't be able to afford them. But the good news is I'm going to London School of Drumming and I'm going to become a full-time drummer. I love it. Yeah. As long as people find their happiness and at rock camp or comedy camp, that to me.
I have to tell you, besides the fact that we love you, David, that documentary that's rock and roll about it's one of the best ones I've ever seen done. I would love it, whether I knew you or not. I love it extra because I love you. It's so well done, and
it translates the message of the experience I think you get when you come to a camp. So when's your next comedy camp?
Okay, so probably November. The good news is that with comedy camp, at the last camp was really tremendous. People really, I brought some TV producers in, and they really loved the experience of, there's been the last comic standing, but here are people that the lawyers, the doctors, the people who want to do comedy. There were some really good ones. I thought that final show was great, right? Mm-hmm. The final show was much better. I thought the mentorship was better. You learn. The first one you do, you learn. And then I think we cleaned up and we really focused it. And so we got interest from some producers to do a TV series. So I'm looking first to do a TV series. I might do next one November. But I got a lot of interest from big agencies and a huge producer. And I don't want to, he asked me not to go out. But we're going to look to sell this as a TV show of taking regular folks and putting them together in a house. And because I think the experience of comics being together is really a fun thing, and in the Catskills, these guys, if you saw the movie Broadway Danny Rose, by Woody Allen, it's an old movie about how these 5 comedians or 6 comedians, they have lunch every Tuesday and they talk and they love to make fun of each other. To me, I thought the funniest thing was backstage with Carolyn Ray, John Lovett, and Jay Leno. They were backstage signing the posters, and you saw Carolyn go after John Lovett, and it was funny. Then John goes after Carolyn, and they just go at each other, and that certain camaraderie is so cool that I'm really looking forward to. I hope we could sell it as a series.
That would be amazing, yeah. And
Yeah,
they do have a different state of mind, that ability to just go with the flow, take the punches. That comedic
sharp, right?
state of mind is,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it would feel like living a little bit in Schitt's Creek or something, you
I
know?
could see
right.
them filming and living at Schiller Ranch.
Oh, yeah. That would be a
Yeah,
great.
that's a great place. Yeah. We talked about yeah. No, Miles said that to me earlier. We
Everybody
film it
has their
down
own
by you.
cabin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
never know.
It would be. Yeah, you never know. No, it'd be a good idea. I'll mention it to them today. But I saw Trevor Wallace the other night. I've been going to see comedy shows now every night to go see some the comics, and some better than others. The only thing that's bothered. I had a terrible experience last week. I'll share this because your listenership. I saw the Tom Brady roast. Did you watch the Tom Brady roast
Oh,
on
Yeah,
Netflix?
yeah,
Okay. So I saw this Glazer. What was her name? What's her name?
Nikki.
Nikki
Nikki
Glazer.
Glazer. So I see Nikki Glazer. I see her performance. It's great. And I love Tom Brady. Coach Belichick's a good friend of mine. And I love, I'm a big fan. So I see Nikki Glazer. I thought that was great. Okay. She's funny. I see that Netflix is doing a comedy. They're doing a comedy festival here in Los Angeles. Nikki Glazer on sale at the Palladium and a 9:30 show or 10:30. It's at 9:30, 10. They didn't even tell you the exact time. So I decide, you know what? I'm going to take the wife and I. We're going to go out to see Nikki Glazer on Saturday night, 9:30, 10:30. So I buy tickets, and it wasn't a comedy club. It was at the Palladium, probably 5,000 seats. And so I show up, and it came like 9:20, 9:15, because I wasn't sure that it didn't tell you if it was going to be a 9:30 start or a 10:30 start. So I show up, and they're folding chairs, and it's now 9:45, 10 o'clock. And then I heard there are going to be a couple of opening acts. So I said, okay. 10:40, Nikki Glazer comes out, and she says, with her phone, she said, okay, here are the 5 jokes I didn't do. It's been the biggest week of my career, and everyone's talking about the roast, and here are the 5 jokes I didn't do. Let me bring out my favorite young comic, and out comes a comic. And then she comes back out, does another joke, and then she says, I'm going to bring out my another comic. And she proceeds to bring out 5 comedians. And the last guy was a guy named Jim Jeffries, who I think is terrible. And because he does this whole routine on Hitler's mustache. And then she comes out and says, good night. I never felt so ripped off going to a show. It was only advertised Nikki Glazer at the Hollywood Playhouse. The seats were wooden seats that the guy in front of me, I felt so bad. He broke the chair when he sat down on it. And it was just the worst experience and she didn't do her act. I came home at night and then I watched her new show on HBO, which was okay, not great, but I was so disappointed, what could I do? And now I just read today that Live Nation is getting sued today and the government wants to break up Ticketmaster and Live Nation because, the ticket fees when you go to these shows are so high and they own. So I was just really upset. And I
Yeah.
think Nikki Glaze is funny and she did great on that roast. I thought all the comics were great, but how
But
sad.
what that one night did for her curating or her PR,
Yeah,
catapulted her 10,000%.
100%. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But
Right. But
you know
then,
what's
like,
yeah, but people be disappointed. I'll tell you what bothers me today with comedy. Everyone's into woke now. So I love watching Don Rickles. I love those old time comics, right? And the Dean Martin roast. Today, all the jokes are just dirty. They're all so sexual. These people can't do. You're afraid to do a joke because so I all go dirty.
right.
And that's why I love Leno. I think that I think he taught us a lot. If you could go clean, that's the way to go. Jerry Seinfeld, go clean. To me, they're really comics. You know,
I can't tell you how many of the lessons from comedy camp we have taken away, and that we'll sit and we'll watch other
oh,
comedians or watch podcasts and think, you all just got a failing grade based on the Jay Leno lesson of how you approach comedy,
yeah,
or what's a good worthy act for somebody's time, their attention, their money, to spend an hour and a half with you. What skill set are you really using to come up with your material? And most of them, based on what we learned at comedy camp, aren't good.
they're not good. And this guy Nate Bargatze, he's great. You think he's clean? I've been listening to him, but I think well, that tells you why Seinfeld's still around, Leno's still around, and Dice Clay is not around.
I said to Christy the other day, we were talking about old shows, and I said, you don't understand how comedic and spot on the Golden Girls were for their time and the content. And I said, they were so progressive at that time that they came in, and then what they said is back out now because everything has to be so, woke or politically correct, that the things that they're saying on camera, you couldn't get away with again.
I know, and it takes away from a lot of good comedy. Even Don Rickles, he's funny, but you can't use any of that stuff today. And
Right.
even the Catskills, those
Archie
comics don't
Bunker,
work.
that would have been canceled.
Yeah, right. But so what's better? Your kid going to hear all these dick jokes all day, and all the sex stuff? It's garbage,
Right.
I couldn't take my kid to a comedy store the other day because you have to be 21 now, and yeah, I don't. That stuff. After a while, it's one or two good jokes, but then that's all they can do.
Yeah. So thankfully we have you, David Fishof, who is doing his best to make a mark on the positive impact of the comedy world. So if you think you've got a vein of funny, or you have one and you want to, hone it in as best as you could ever hope that money could pay for, you got to go see David Fishof at one of his comedy camps, or if you've got a talent for jamming out, go see him for a rock and roll fantasy camp.
There was a lot of famous trial lawyers there. There was
Yeah, I mean, I think all
some
kinds
CEOs.
of people who want to even just learn how to manage people better or be more approachable. Anybody could benefit, I honestly think, from going to comedy camp. Yeah, I just can't wait to see what you've done with comedy camp 5 years from now. So
Right.
we'll be here paying attention, even if we're not there, and we'll always be there in spirit. But
Thank you.
thank you,
Congratulations
David.
to you guys. Okay, all the
And with
best.
that being said, say goodnight, Lucy.
Good night, Lucy.